Alright, new series, new hopes. I can't wait to get started. I'm torn.
So make way to start a revolution. Make way, we're gonna have fun tonight. Make way to start a revolution. So make way.
With the success of Ben 10 at the time, it would make sense Man of Action would try their hand at another franchise. Their new take was Generator Rex, based on the Image comic M. Rex. It premiered during Ultimate Aliens hype, and came and left. It had a 3-season run, but fell off the radar, becoming to many an underrated gem for Cartoon Network. The series takes place after the Nanite event, in which nanites infected the entire world, creating beings known as Evos. Some Evos keep their powers in control, others become rampaging beasts. Rex, who can warp his body into weapons at will, works with an agency known as Providence to cure any Evo he can while dealing with the evil Evos and his archenemy, Van Cleis. Rex would also be joined by Agent 6, the most dangerous man in the world, and Bobo Haha. He's a monkey sidekick.
That's the extent I could remember of the show, other than Rex teaming up with Ben in a special crossover event. That, and the show got its own game adaptation known as Agent of Providence. Unlike the Ben 10 games, however, that were published by D3, this one was published by our good friends at Activision. I don't blame you if you're nervous either, let's just get this review started.
The game's story focuses on Rex as he encounters a blueprint to an Omega-1 nanite, the same nanite Rex uses for his ultimate weapons. Van Cleis catches wind of this and attempts to steal the blueprint's burst to become all-powerful, including enlisting Cersei, Rex's love one of Rex's love interests. Shenanigans happen, Van Cleis obtains the Omega-1 nanite, Rex defeats Van Cleis as he escapes to fight another day. The plot is simple and doesn't need players to know a lot about the show, though I'm sure it would have helped me, especially with Cersei. So, does she love Rex or not? She's willing to sell him out to be pure of nanites, but still acts like she cares for him? Yikes, I haven't seen a more complicated relationship than Ladybug and Cat Noir. The game also makes hints and nods toward the series per flavor text, but the story as is honestly okay and serviceable. Though Van Cleis, probably my favorite character in the game. So sophisticated, so diabolically evil and suave. Thank you, Troy Baker. Hey, wow, the dude really does voice everything. Now that we're getting into the game proper, I should reference I'm playing Agent of Providence on the Wii, but it's also available for Nintendo DS, 3DS, PlayStation 3, and Xbox 360. With that in mind, the game looks good for being on the Wii. Models are detailed very well, and levels are surprisingly huge, but at a cost I'll explain soon. Levels also vary in locations, from the jungles of the Amazon to the creepiness of the Pocket Dimension. Or we're in the Silent Hill game that never came to be. Sorry, too soon?
Probably. You know what? Why don't we just distract ourselves with some good music? When it actually plays.
Music, while good and serves the battles they play for, levels themselves are empty. Unless you're using the Punk Busters, you're left with the visuals and sound effects. An odd choice, especially for an action game when the game needs to keep your attention. I could make a comparison, but that meme has been done to death, so I'll spare you the groans. On that, we have ourselves another beat-em-up platformer. I'm not really surprised anymore. You control Rex, battling Evos in an attempt to reach the boss at the end of the stage. Although you wouldn't know that from the start since it begins with a skydiving sequence. I was immediately reminded of Revenge of the Fallen for PlayStation 2, and I began to worry. When not battling, you're either running to the next fight, solving the few puzzles this game has, or walking. Slowly walking. I assume this is to load in future areas, but otherwise, it breaks the pace. I moaned every time this happened, right up to the final level, for a reason I'll touch on later. Yes, I'm not saving a lot of details, but trust me, it'll be worth it when it's relevant. You attack with the B button for light attacks, and use the Z button for strong attacks. Block with the C button, or slide with the C and analog stick combo. Jump with the A button, and select your weapon with the directional buttons. You're given 3 weapons to work with. Smack hands for strong attacks and a drill punch, the BFS, or Big Fat Sword, you have no idea how tempted I was to make a Doom reference, for crowd control, and a saw blade. And finally, the Slam Cannon for projectile attacks. Most enemies just need to be punched or sliced, aside from 2 types that prefer distant attacks. And to be honest, I never blocked nor found a reason for me to. Life's greatest lesson? Punch until it falls. It always works.
Yes, I'm explaining basically the entire game in a rapid fire style, but there is a reason for that. You're taught all of it, almost every single aspect of the game, in the first on-foot level. And apparently Rex has had enough of teaching you what he already knows.
Guys, can you stop babysitting me for 1 second? I know what I'm doing!
There aren't special combos, so to speak. A basic 3-hit combo for each weapon, 5 with upgrades. Soon, my friend, be patient. But then you have your Omega weapons. Hitting enemies and ranking a huge combo number fills your blue bar, and once full, hitting plus unleashes a barrage of attacks depending on the Omega weapon of your choice. Spitting nunchucks, whirlwind axes, or a whip. Totally a whip. It can only be used when the bar is full, but you can stop it whenever you wish by pressing plus again. It can clear out enemies fast, and you can control where it goes. So if you need to clear out a room, which you'll want to do often, well, there you go.
Now, I played a game that sounds very similar to this before. Actually, coincidentally, in this marathon, Ben 10 Alien Force. While the beat-em-up style was okay, I thought there were areas that paled in comparison to the game prior, Ben 10 Protector of Earth. Playing Agent of Providence, I am so sorry I bashed this game like I did.
A game's length shouldn't define your overall experience, rather how the game handles that length to make playing worthwhile. Well, if you exclude pre-rendered cutscenes, you get a grand total of 2 hours worth of playtime.
What?
2 hours of trekking through levels, forced in-game cutscenes, beating baddies, and slashing bosses. And it sort of uses that well. There are tons of battles and levels, forcing you to take out a small variety of enemies reused multiple times. 10 types of enemies to be precise. The only change between them is a color change for higher defense. Otherwise, it's the same mooks, leading to stale combat trying to reach the boss. You thought Alien Force was bad at forced battles every 5 steps? You haven't played this game. Puzzles and platforming try to shake things up, but it's far few in between. There were only 3 puzzles in total that I counted, and platforming can only do so much jumping from one side to another, over and over, even if Rex made sure not to skip leg day.
Gee, I wish there were worthwhile collectibles to make playing this game and exploring worth it. Okay, ow.
Aside from nanites collected for upgrades, the only collectibles are items from Rex's past. They're put in your room, and that's it. They're just there. You don't even get to interact with them again once you collect them.
It's basically no different than getting a statue for your room. Moving on.
Upgrades, since I said the word, are done by hitting the 2 button whenever you want. You could upgrade your health and Omega Bar, increase combo lengths, and enhance heavy attacks. You should be able to do this easily since I got almost every upgrade point after beating the game. I had only 1 left and, well, I'll mention post-game later. That's not gonna be fun. But even though they say you can unlock new weapons through upgrading,
Access the device to upgrade your builds or unlock new ones whenever you've collected enough evolution nanites.
you never do. The same 3 weapons and the 3 Omega builds gained over time by playing the game. To be fair, almost every build from the show is represented here, so I'll let the details slide just a bit. What I can't slide is what it says on the box, fighting alongside Bobo Haha. You know, John DiMaggio.
You can come with me and get in some serious party time before the next apocalyptic end of the world crisis pops up.
Dude, sucking at something is the first step towards being sorta good at something.
Despite that being advertised, there's no co-op in the game for any second player. In actuality, it's saved for the one bike level. Yes, a vehicle section. You control the bike and Bobo shoots any enemies in Rex's way. This is only done once, and after playing Final Fantasy VII Remake, I can't like Rex's bike section as much as I should have. It's too short to really call worthwhile anyway. Bobo? Are you sure you're aiming your blasters? The enemies are up there. Okay. Well, that covers almost everything except bosses. And it's surprisingly a decent selection. Some of them, like Biowolf, are beat them till they fall, but others use level gimmicks as a test or change things up for the better. For example, Breach here loves dolls, and just before her fight, you have to break the dolls for a blueprint fragment. So instead of attacking her like most bosses, the boss fight revolves around you destroying her dolls to weaken her. It's actually kinda smart. The brain of Aquaria, as another example, is protected by spikes, which you have to shoot an eye, like in the level, to lower the spikes and deal damage, using the level to your advantage. But the best boss is Van Kleist himself. Most bosses let you hit him a few times, but unless it's right after an attack, Van Kleist always has its guard up. So, in a smart move, you need to use your Omega weapons to deal damage. You're being tested on your weapons. That's actually pretty cool. Throw in a final phase similar to the first boss, but tougher, and you get a pretty cool final boss. I was pleasantly surprised how most of the bosses were handled well. Ah yes, bosses have quick time events. Big shock. You only use the B and A buttons, sure, but fail once at any time and the boss regains some health, meaning you have to deplete that bar again to get a second chance at the quick time event. Some bosses don't have quick time events, but those that do are stressful because you don't want to extend the fight. And trust me, mashing the B button is not fun. My wrist can back me up on that.
So with the way I'm making it out, it sounds like this game could be a cakewalk. Honestly, it can be. Especially with no other way to select difficulty. You're just given one difficulty option and that's it. So is there any real reason to replay the game? Well, you do have side quests. Sort of.
There's two optional goals the game gives you the choice to do. By defeating enemies, you'll notice you're collecting EVO samples for Dr. Holiday. There's a set amount for each enemy, and your goal is to collect enough of each. Whether you get them or not is pure luck, and since specific enemy types only appear in certain levels, don't be surprised if the game forces you to replay levels for them. On the other side is 6's time trials.
What have I got?
Oh, you wish. You play levels from start to end, trying to finish them in a certain amount of time. So it times you on your battles, bosses, in-game cutscenes, and walking segments.
Since when was I in summer games done quick? Why are cutscenes being timed?
This is why in-game cutscenes can't be skipped. For the time trials. And excuse my French, but that is just pathetic. If you can skip pre-rendered cutscenes, why not all cutscenes? Especially when they could have costed me the trial. Look, I beat the boss, but the timer is still going. Someone call time already! And for completing each time trial, you get experience points. But for completing all of them, you get a sword for your room that stays there.
What?
I felt shattered when I got the sword. I thought it would have led to a new weapon, anything of value. But nope. And it was at that point I gave up 100%ing this game, despite being so close to collecting all the samples. I had an idea of what to expect, and I wasn't going to play levels again and again just for a chance at collecting what I needed. all possibly for an item in my room that I'll never use or interact with again.
All in all, the total playtime in this game was about 4 hours. That includes the full playthrough I did as well as the time trials. And I never wanted that time back so badly after I played the game. This is a pure one and done. Even with the nice things the game surprised me with. I didn't even want that for Sonic Forces at one point. How do you handle it worse than Sonic Forces?
Just like the hub the game gives you, it looks nice at first, but explore it in depth and there's nothing left to keep you coming back. I appreciate the extra missions for replay value, but the reward just isn't worth the effort. Maybe if I was a fan of the show, I could go easier on the game, but no, I doubt I'd like it even then. I enjoyed some of the bosses, some of the characters I found interesting, and I will say the game piqued my interest in the show, but chances are I'll enjoy the show more than the game it was based on. A sad fate for most licensed games.
Well, at least a lot of time wasn't wasted. Because if memory serves, we have a Watch-wearing boy to go back to. Unfortunately for some, the next series we're going to dive into is one of the most polarized series in the franchise. But on the bright side, we have a doubleheader. Next time, we're going to be covering both Ben 10 Omniverse and Omniverse 2. Both on a Wii U, so this will be interesting. On the PS2Man. So make way, start a revolution. Make way, we're gonna have fun tonight.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, well, you know what to do. If you want to keep up with any updates, make sure to follow Twitter, and if you want to catch out any of my streams, feel free to check out my Twitch. Other than that, I'll see you next time. Take care everyone.